The 9 hour, the third hour of incense. Hallelujah. Doing some painting today, getting the house fixed up. Going to have an open house. Bring around our tribal people and offer them up a new story. A story where a group of people stop being helpless and fearful and cowardly. Rather, they replace that with taking responsibility, being noble, being righteous, being obedient to our Creator God, the opposite of the people that we see on TV. Whether they're on the left or the right, they both are, both factions are in rebellion. So, and basically I want to prove that they're all gatekeepers unless they're telling you this story right now. I'm not saying I'm the only one. I'm saying everybody should be telling this story right now. And like Bob Marley told this story as a for instance. And lots of reggae artists right now are telling this story. Lots of hip hop artists are telling the story of the fall of Babylon. That story, they've been making songs about it. I mean, for 50 years at least. I'm sure for a long time they've been writing songs about defeating Babylon. But because we've been watching TV, we've been watching Star Trek, and we've been watching the Brady Bunch, and being taught how to live under the idolatrous humanistic system of Freemasonry called the U.S. Constitution, with voting and the need for majorities, and the humans make the rules instead of Yah. Because Yah is the owner, and we're the wicked tenants. If we think it's all ours, we're the wicked tenants. So I've had these conversations with people before in Breckenridge, Colorado, going into the churches. Like I'm down to do it. What I needed to have Yah guide me through was, what's the end game? Like how do you go from the macro to the minimal? So what you do individually versus the grand scheme, right? So you got to know the grand scheme in order to focus down so that you know what to do individually within that scope of the grand scheme, right? So like if you're playing chess, you have different phases of a chess. So they have an opening, you have your middle game, and you have your close it. Like you got to close. You don't want to have a draw, you want to checkmate them. A dominant player will checkmate rather than go for draws, right? It's just strategy. So we have been traumatized since birth, even at birth, right? We've been traumatized the whole way up. So we keep passing down this intergenerational virus called Babylon, where man makes the law, right? And when we didn't obey that, when we rebelled from that, when we defied Caesar, then we turned that world upside down from Acts 17:6 and 7, right? We're not supposed to obey man, we're supposed to obey Yah. And through this path individually, as we walk it, we start here, like, man, I rescind my oath to the U.S. Constitution. I rescind it. I'm not a voter anymore. I'm an Israelite. Right? It's an identity thing. It's not just like the state of Israel, but rather the state of mind of living nomadically, like living off the land, sowing and reaping, and being dependent upon the cycles of the earth, the cycles of Yah, the 7 Sabbaths, the natural Sabbaths, the sun, rise with the sun, set with the moon, right? The trying to be harmonious with creation. And that's what society is like, and Yah's economics are like, because they're like the most magnificent blessing, the perfect law of liberty, it's described, right? The perfect law of liberty. Right, Joshua Hackett says the church in Babylon, right? So what Babylon did as a doppelganger, right? He made a copy of what the Jews, the king of the Jews, they made a copy. Herod was the imposter. right? That's the way you deceive, is you make a copy. You know, if you're going to counterfeit money, you're copying money, right? Right? That's a doppelganger. It's a false flag. It's identity theft. That's how the adversary deceives us, is through the identity theft. So the way in which we can, in an hour, how do we defeat Babylon? Getting back to the primary question, how do we defeat Babylon in 1 hour or less? All right. So to get a vision for this, there's actually a Star Trek episode called Day of the Dove, right? So the idea is, if we stop being divided and conquered, right? If we stop believing these walls of separation, rather we have the walls crumble down, because we on the one side of the wall and the people on the other side of the wall are not adversaries, except that we've been deceived into idolatry, so that we would be following other gods, different lawmakers. The gods make the law, but the God makes the law. But if the people, as the bad tenant, then they make the law. We, the people, make the law. We, bad tenants. And what happens to the bad tenants? They get replaced by those who tithe to Yah first. Tithe to Yah. And you can pay the tithe with your flocks and your herds and your oils, right? So when we teach a generation of children that this is the way, in our teaching, we will have internalized it. We haven't acted upon it yet, but we've taught it. We've conceived the idea of how Exodus, hey, if we all just bartered right now with our neighbors, we'd have all kinds of supply chain problems, right? Because we wouldn't be able to get our cheap Chinese goods, right? Because that's what they've done. They've made everything disharmonious with the natural order. Globalism, international usury, international usurpation. Man, right? That we've been punked, right? So how long does it take to realize that you've been punked, right? In an instant, you're like, they got me. They got me, right? When you can lower your ego and just go, they got me. Oh, they got me. Not only is it they got you, you're going to keep, as you become a truther and investigating everything based upon the Bible, you'll see even more ways than just in the secular world. You know what I mean? If you take 9/11, for instance, in the secular world, it's a false flag. You had entities that were opposite of those being blamed for the crime, right? It was the false accuser, right? So the Bible explains these are the same false accusers that assassinated the Israelite Messiah. Why did they want to assassinate the Israelite Messiah? Why? Because prophets are deliverers. They end the oppression. Who are you being oppressed by? Who are we being oppressed by right now? The moneylenders, the usurers, the head, and not the tail. Like, we're the tail. We're getting whipped all over the place. We're not in control. We're not sovereign. You have this hidden hand controlling things from far off that the people in France are protesting over right now. So the way it gets defeated in an hour is witnessed in the Bible. And I'll read the verses. It's in the fall of Babylon. It even says it right in the King James. Babylon the Great has fallen. So if you know what Babylon is man's law, man's morality, meaning the Constitution on the one side, the conservatives, the libertarians, the whatever, anarchists, man makes law, right? Whether you have a government or you don't have a government, man makes the law under that belief system. Well, that's polytheism. If you believe that and you believe that Yah is God. Because the God creates the law. The king creates the law. That's what monotheism, that's what we all want. So when you realize that the truth and you hammer everything against that truth and it all just crumbles, that Yah creates the law. Because when you come to fear Yah, you realize, and when you read the Bible, you realize that the reason why we are being oppressed is not the fault of the money lenders. Rather, It is our fault. It's our fault. Money isn't valuable because of the mark of the beast. It's not valuable because of the 666 people, the people that are pedophiles and child molesters, and they literally feed off the blood. In the Bible, it's described as passing your children through the fire of Moloch, because we sacrifice our children. So when you realize 9/11 from a spiritual eyes, you see that what they're doing is performing a ceremony to engender hate and anger. And it doesn't matter if you direct that hate and anger toward the Muslims, the Christians, or the Jews, all right? Because the adversary who has counterfeited all of that, that's the real false flag. That it's not just the synagogue of Satan Jews, it's the synagogue of Satan Christians, the synagogue of Satan Muslims. Because the Bible is describing an ongoing usurpation with the good intent of the people. Taking our good intentions and tripping up into idolatry of the cult of the Vatican or the cult of papism, where it's like one guy. Well, the Bible says it's bottom up, meaning as soon as I'm a judge, as soon as my people qualify me, that I'm a like you can check my bank statements, you can check all of my records, all of my sins, which are breathtakingly evil, like the leader of the evil guys. Do you know what I mean? I'm the leader of the evil guys before Yah saved me through the cannabis of Exodus, all right? So when this becomes available, this knowledge which I'm describing right now as a prophet, judge, and deliverer, an intentional wanting to deliver, just like when you join the military, they cultivate, you are to be a deliverer of your people. But through idolatry, they misdirect it, so you go kill a bunch of innocent people in Southeast Asia or Iraq or Grenada or whatever nonsense they brew up in order to take people that are trying to live tribally, right? That's what the cavalry did initially, right? It's just some people trying to live tribal. They don't want to pay Uncle Sam. They don't want the Constitution. So I'm not saying they didn't have their brand, the Indians didn't have their brand of pagan idolatry also, but at least they were trying to live cyclically within what Yah has created. They believed in a great spirit and that they should obey and have the direct, smoke the peace pipe, the cannabis of Exodus, tribal identity. That's why music is such a big part of all this. This is a new song. Well, you can learn the lyrics to this new song in an hour. Yah, bring us a deliverer. Because when the deliverer comes, he comes to chasten Israel, say, no, we were deceived, we're deceived, we're deceived. As soon as anybody says Constitution, think of Samuel L. Jackson when he's like so overwhelmingly intimidating and he's got a gun it's like a famous scene and the kid's trying to say, but one more time. And he's got a gun pointed right at, and these guys are they kill people just like a drop of a hat. And we have to come to grips, we Israelites, that the people who hate us, that are oppressing us, are spoiling us, are on the left and the right. It's a good cop, bad cop routine. And as soon as we get past that idolatry of all that Stockholm syndrome, that's all it is. It's battered wife syndrome because we've been oppressed since we were born. The Bible explains how to get out of that oppression. And once what a man can conceive, or what a mind can, any of you, anyone, that's what's so beautiful is Yah's salvation is available to all of us, regardless of our nationality and sex and all of that. But he is a king of righteousness. So he's a king of forgiveness to forgive all your sloppy hot messiness, like myself, champion of the sloppy messes. and redeem all of that and turn it back into a vessel for Yah to achieve Yah's purposes. Because he took you when you're worthless, and you realize that, wow, the only thing that really matters is the spirit and trying to walk with Yah, because when Yah blesses you, you have a magnificent life that I've had with my family. Magnificent. Yah has blessed me 2 new sons, and I'm going to raise them up to, I talk to my sons like I talk to you guys. These guys are devils out there. It is Christmas time, and it is the very people who murdered Messiah are the ones that promote Christmas. It's Mammon. You can't worship Christmas, the Christmas God of Mammon, and worship the creator God of the Bible. You can't do both. So why is it that Yah's people won't listen? Because of idolatry, because of their stiff-neckedness. So as quick as you can explain everything I'm explaining in a song, right? I'm sure it's already there. So let's use Yah's story. So if you could read the story, this is how Yah describes it. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with his glory. Right? So when Yah pours out his spirit, he inhabits us and says, yeah, tribal First Nation judges, I need to study Yah's word so I know how to adjudicate when there's a theft, how to adjudicate when there's adultery, how to adjudicate when there's a murder. When people come to you with victims, not victimless crimes, but victim crimes, there is a victim. There's prostitution. This whole system is prostitution. It's the mother of Babylon is the mother of the prostitutes. We've all been prostituted. We all sell our mind, body, and soul. And that's the reason why Yah said, like I was thinking, man, it's Monday. It's just another manic Monday. And we all go to work for Yah, or we should. And today I was blessed to go to work for Yah because this is what I want to do for a living. And according to Pastor Ted R. Weiland in his book, or teaching, as treasurer, he would make an outstanding treasurer for Yah's kingdom because he has developed a way that through the tithe and through Yah's economic system where the judges actually get paid. And it actually says that in the New Testament, he who is worthy his, I forget the verse. You're not supposed to muzzle an ox, right? So you want to feed those who are actually at the tip of the spear, right? And the reason why I was saying, like, this is the information you'll never see at Super Bowl Sunday, right? Is this not, they're not teaching them to be tribal, they're teaching them to be Babylonian, right? Go buy the stuff from China, right? The tribalites, the righteousites, the Dave Buds, Dave Bud, what's up? Fraternity brother, Sigma Phi Epsilon, class of 85, right? So Dave Budd knew me when I was like marined up as you can imagine, right? Just all brainwashed into that idolatry. So the point is Yah wants to take you and save you from that life where, you know, potentially, I get the concept, action, strategy. Sorry, I'm a pretty concrete Berean. Well, I wanted to read Yah's first, right? So that's what I mean. I'm talking like people that have different mindsets. They want to see the macro explanation of how you defeat Babylon and the micro explanation. So Yah does the macro. So I need to read Yah's word first. As a Berean, we should go there, I agree. And he lighted mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great has fallen, is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. We've all fornicated. We've all been whores and slept with the idolatry of the Uncle Sam, right? Yah used whoring Israel as a whore who sleeps around with Uncle Sam and sleeps around with Rothschild or the NFL or Pornhub, or, you know what I mean, whatever alcohol, whatever sort of corruption can be corruptive. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So the merchants of the earth. So think about globalism, right? And another way to think about this is merchants. When they talk about merchants, you also go back to the curse of Deuteronomy 28:68, where it says, Yah promises that he's going to sell us back into Egyptian captivity, and he does it on ships, citizen ships. And what Yah makes a duplicate of us flesh and blood human beings, a doppelganger, and that's what that deception is. Hey, mommy. Yep. How much time we got?
The cost is 11:30. So.
Like 15 minutes. Right?
I'm going to leave anything, sorry, but I'll feel like a failure if I don't go.
Yeah, yep. How about you just knock on the door and I'll come in? Just when you're ready to leave, just knock on the door and I'll come out. All right. So I'm blessed to have a Monday where I get to be with my children. Yes, Sharon Howarth. That's a great important teaching, is the actual actions and strategies. That's what Mountain Hours was all about. I promoted a local currency called Mountain Hours. So to just give a quick, this is a book called The Monetary System of the Most High. Brett Jones wrote it, and I did little parts of it. And there's basically each of the feasts of Yahweh represent some economic aspect. So the 7 feasts each represent a different aspect of our leaving Babylon. So you have to divorce Pharaoh in order to leave Egypt. All of these are types: Egyptian captivity and Babylonian captivity. So when it talks about the fall of Babylon, you're talking about the fall of Egypt. You're talking about the fall of the U.S. empire. You're talking about the fall of Rothschild's International House of Usury. Do you guys see the picture of Walter Rothschild? He was on riding a turtle, and he had a stick with a little piece of lettuce on it. And he's just dangling the stick in front of the turtle, and the turtle's like, and you know, it only works if you starve the turtle. You know that, right? So if the turtle's fat and he's fed, right, he's not going to care about that piece of lettuce you're dangling out in front. So what they do is they always keep us in scarcity. This is an honest money system that it eliminates that scarcity, because it allows everybody to issue money. Just like a restaurant owner issues a gift certificate. So that's your grassroots, and you got to go out and implement that. So I was thinking, like, the 3 jobs of the guys that would be in the kingdom, right? So it's different, because initially you got to establish the kingdom. You got to be out there. You're like the Marines. You're the first to fight. And it's the house of Judah that actually does that. The house of Judah goes in to fight first. So anyway, they go in, and they go into the synagogues, right? And they proclaim, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me with the cannabis of Exodus to preach the good news to the poor." And this is how the doppelganger, they made the good news to be Jesus' birth, death, and resurrection. That's John 3:16, for Yah gave his only begotten son to die so that men may live. He sacrificed his blood so that we may live, which is true. However, it's not the good news, because that's not what Jesus was saying in the synagogue. He wasn't going in the synagogue saying, "Hey, good news, everybody, I'm going to die. Now I'm going to forgive yours." They're like, "Who are you?" Right? So in order for him to connect with them, he said, like, the way I connect with them, just like I connect with you, is I'm reading from the same law book. We will get along great if you're reading from the same law book as I am, where abortion is murder, where theft through usury is an abomination, punishable by death. We're going to yeah, the usurers. And when there's a group of people that come to that realization, when Jesus went into the temple on Super Bowl Sunday, the high Sabbath of Passover, where they're having a challenge to see who the king was. There's Herod there, and there's Caesar, right? The Sanhedrin, they're trying to rule as a collection of kings or whatever, right? So they got all these factions saying who's king, and he goes, nuh-uh, I'm king. Who's the bad guy? I whip the bad guys. Because nobody else would do it. Why? Because they all work for the bad guys. Because they all recognize that they got all the money to hire the mercenaries, police and military included, including the U.S. military, including all the nations of the world, including in Israel, Rothschild, Herodian. They say they're Jews, but they're not. Doppelganger, Israel. Doppelganger, right? You got to see the pattern. It's like just everywhere. Citizens, they're doppelgangers for the legit, right? Where we should be able to travel based upon Yah's law, where the strangers love one another. Why? Because they're tribal. They still keep their tribal identity, and they want to see a different culture. What's the point if we're all the same thing? Cultures are beautiful, and it expresses Yah's love for the different colors in the garden. It's Reggie White spoke about this, where he made us a little bit different, flavored salt different than pepper. Do you know what I mean? Like but they're all awesome. Salt and pepper, man, they're all awesome. So they're just different notes of music, but they're still different. Just like all the colors in the rainbow are magnificent. That's a cycle of Sabbath 7. Roy G. Biv. Yah has engineered and threaded everything through the natural landscape. Red, orange, yellow. That's the only reason I could remember it is because of that acronym, right? Roy G. Biv. Yah teaches through these acronyms, through these allegories in the Bible, so that we remember our tribal First Nation identity, and we can remember that in an hour. Like, oh, I'm not gonna see eye to eye with most of these Babylonians, but I'm gonna eagerly try to reach out and find others that fully wish to repent and become self-sufficient and plant and grow a garden. Bottom up, completely grassroots. I mean, grassroots by definition, like getting your hands dirty, grassroots, right? That's when you have that in your mind and you've defeated all the other constructs, which all the other aspects of the idolatrous matrix, which Babylon has poisoned our minds with. That's how you do it. It's a head game. It's spiritual. So when that happens, the citizenship collapses, the usurpation collapses, the international house of usury collapses. We come to realize that Yah created it all, and he's coming to restore all things. He's going to refresh it. He's going to reset it. And he's going to say, everybody go back. You messed it all up. And he does that by taking our hearts of stone, and he changes them into hearts of flesh, where he's able to write his laws on our minds so that we become a bride that willingly and lovingly and delight, we become just any of you guys, imagine the wife that you want. Imagine the wife that you want, right? So there's a lot, you can go beauty, 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 but if they're a Jezebel, they are going to torture you. They're going to torture you because they're rebelling from Yah and you're partaking in their idolatry. However, when you walk Yah's way and with Yah's tribal identity, women will see that they will only see true women, Jeremiah 31 women, that they fear Yah and keep his commands. the women that are like that, they will be spiritual, and because they're spiritual, they'll help to increase your spirituality. And when they see your spirituality, they will be inspired by Yah through. And what happens is this architecture of justice, this architecture of, yes, a patriarch. I said it, a noble patriarch, a ruling patriarch comes to say all of this nonsense ends. You're not turning our children into women, our boys into women. You're going to stop poisoning our water. You're going to stop poisoning the air. You're going to stop poisoning everything that can be poisoned. And because we are going to take responsibility, and we are going to make sure that our children learn none of the nonsense and we're going to take our little boys and sing songs of freedom, songs of redemption, like Bob Marley talks about, songs of Exodus, songs of rebellion and defiance to Caesar and Pharaoh and Uncle Sam and Rothschild and Esau, and saying yes, yes, yes to our noble, righteous Jewish brothers from the house of Nehemiah 5, who led a successful debtors' revolt. Because we need all 12 tribes to do this, because that's in Revelation 2, the 144,000. It's 12 from 12 from 12. So what happens is the Jews say, hey, we got to obey the law. We're not living tribally. We have a secular government here in Israel. So as fast as that recognition is made, hey, Christian, come here. Yes, I gotta watch Caleb. Here, I want to show my winner, right? So we teach winning, right? How do we teach winning? Who wins between David and Goliath? The big bad Goliath, or does little David win?
Yeah.
With the
Shield, and he got his sword.
It hit him, got his sword, he hit him in the head with the slingshot. Remember? Who wins? David!
Yeah!
Because David had Yah. Yeah. David's beat Goliath.
Yeah.
Because they know the pen's mightier than the sword, right?
Did you come?
So that's how it's done. Less than an hour. I don't know how long I've been on. 31 minutes ago. Okay. Yes, I can come. I'm going to tie it up here. You got to believe that David beats Goliath. The anointed deliverers come when Israel cries out. Israel's got to cry out. That's the message. Cry out, and Yah will raise deliverers, cause and effect. And it's a promise from Yah, guaranteed and delivered. Read Revelation 18. In less than an hour, well, I gotta say those two. Revelation 18:7. For in 1 hour, so the great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company of ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off. And alas, that great city wherein were the rich of all the ships in the sea by reason of their costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate. Babylon falls.